Good day, everyone who is together with us today for this first online session in the series of Digital Explorers webinar. First of all, I would like to give a welcome word to Daina Kleponė, the head of Enterprise Lithuania, who is also the leading consortium member of the Digital Explorers project. Daina, the floor is yours.
Eugenia. And good afternoon, everybody, dear partners and participants of Digital Explorers. Actually, today for us, it's a sad day. Sad day because of two reasons. One, that we are not able to meet you all live, what we planned, because of the pandemic restrictions, of course, and other reason to be sad that actually we are approaching to an end of a very exciting and challenging project. It has been almost 2 years of project implementations, and we learned many lessons that we are willing to share widely to inspire other European Union member states to pilot similar initiatives and to contribute to the discussion on how talent mobility should be shaped for the greatest benefits of all parties involved. And it has been a challenging journey, but the results are, I think, worth of it. And we are willing not only to share our lessons, but also build on them to aim for more mutually beneficial individual journeys between unexpected or already acquainted partners. Digital Explorers initiative is designed in a way to satisfy a needs of both Nigerian and Lithuanian ICT ecosystem. And basically it responds to at least 2 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. One is contributing to Nigerian youth development relevant skills for employment, and as well contributing to broader changes that support SMEs in increasing their competitiveness, promoting policies that support decent job creation, entrepreneurship, and innovation as well. And coming a little bit back, the idea to foster ICT cooperation with the biggest African market, Nigeria, was born after Lithuanian research and consultancy non-profit company Africo and Enterprise Lithuania established a solid partnership with the Nigerian Tech Park Ventures platform. And the concept for Digital Explorers was developed by the partners. However, with extensive consultations and involvement of Lithuanian and Nigerian stakeholders, and we have so many of the stakeholders in this project, and I could name Lithuanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Economy and Innovation, ICT Association in Lithuania, Infobalt, and their members, the companies took part in the project, as well as Nigerian Vice President's Office and well-established Nigerian techpreneurs. The EU financing for Digital Explorers has been secured by the International Center for Migration Policy Development, ICMPD, as part of the pilot project on legal migration initiative. And of course, the project could not have happened without this financial support. So I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the partners and supporters of this program. First of all, to all the members of consortium, Africo team, Eugenia, Mante, for all your very smart team. Very big thank you for Code Academy, for Diversity Development Group in Lithuania, as well as the consortium members in Nigeria, our dear partners Venture Platform, as well as for European Commission for trusting Lithuania to pilot one of the 4 mobility projects in EU, and ICMPD for continuous, not only administrative, but also a big intellectual support. And I would like to stress that we as Enterprise Lithuania have learned also a lot about the risk management and different approaches from this project. Lithuania Ministry of Foreign Affairs also for recognizing the potential of this initiative and supporting it, and this support was really very valuable, as well as Infobalt Association for helping us to get members and or publicity. So thank you very much for all of your support. And today I would like to announce that this other online event, it's not only one event, but for this period closing events, we will have another event tomorrow and one more on Thursday. So I'm inviting you to take part at the events, and I'm very happy to see you all here today and wish you a very fruitful online meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Daina, for this welcome word and for your warm words for us, for the whole consortium, for European Commission and ICMPD. We'll stick to the plan strictly and continue with a presentation that I'm going to present together with my colleague. So I'm going to start sharing my screen right now. Just give me a moment. Here we go. I hope everybody can see the screen. So I'm just gonna run quickly through the agenda for today. So we just heard opening remarks by Daina Kleponė, and I will continue together with my colleague Grzeskowiak-Verseckaitė from Ventures Platform Foundation, our partner in Nigeria, to present some of our key takeaways from implementing the project. The time is really packed, so we tried to be concise, and we couldn't actually fit everything we wanted to say, so please bear with us and do ask questions throughout. And after we are done with the presentation, we will continue with a panel discussion, which will be moderated by Dr. Eglė Grzeskowiak-Verseckaitė. And I will return and present all the panelists after we are done with the presentation. So there are plenty of you that already are familiar with Digital Explorers project, but there are also some of you that perhaps heard a little about it. So together with my colleague Adeze, we try to highlight some of our key lessons learned, but also let me try and go quickly through who are Digital Explorers. So first of all, it's an ICT-focused knowledge exchange program between two buzzing ICT markets, Lithuania and Nigeria. And you'd probably hear a lot of this today. This is an unexpected connection that actually creates huge benefits for Lithuania and also for Nigeria. In a nutshell, it's a 6 or 12 months career advancement journey for Nigerian ICT specialists who come to Lithuania for either paid employment or paid traineeship in selected local companies. And the program also provides a tailored skills enhancement program for these Nigerian specialists. We also have a strong reintegration support when Nigerians are coming back to their home country. And as well, the program has an institutional knowledge exchange component. And the important thing as well is that Digital Explorers program is built on and supported by a strong collaboration between both public and private organizations and also non-profit organizations in Lithuania and Nigeria. And we are a consortium of 5 organizations of different types. So this is a very detailed plan of how the journey of the program looks like. But what I would like you to focus on is the middle of the screen, where we kind of divide the project into 3 main stages. The first of them is creating a match. It's the stage where we match the skills of Nigerian talents with the needs of the Lithuanian companies. So this is where the magic happens. The second stage is helping this match to be perfect. So this is actually the period when Nigerians come to Lithuania, and there's a lot of support required at this stage to make this program a success. And the last stage of the project is making it easier to say goodbye. So this is the end of the program, and this is the stage where we are right now with the first round of Digital Explorers. So this is where we finalize activities, and also some of the people are going back to Nigeria and have reintegration. And it's also the time for us to reflect on lessons learned. There are many different activities, and like I said, it's difficult for us to try and pack what we have been doing for the last 2 years in a presentation of not more than 15 minutes. Whoever will be interested will have a recording of this, and we can also always share more information of a different smaller stage. What is important is that we have these 3 main stages, and that's the journey of the project. I would like just to highlight our key achievements throughout this almost 2 years of implementation. First of all, when we launched a project call in Nigeria, we had 1,425 applications to become digital explorers. We conducted around 150 interviews, and then there were 77 Nigerian ICT specialists selected to participate in an on-site training for almost a week in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. So out of this pool of talented people, there has been matching done between 15 explorers and 7 companies in Lithuania. So right now, these 15 explorers have already completed their 1-year employment in Lithuania. And talking about statistics, 3 have returned to Nigeria because there was they didn't fit the demand of the company, or the other way around, that the explorers didn't find the company providing what they expected. And 10 of the explorers are currently retained by the same companies or employed by other companies while also studying for their master degrees. There are still 2 explorers that are yet to have a final decision on their future, but generally the statistics are like that. And since these are legal migration projects, migration is a really important part of it. So one of the key achievements for us was opening of a visa center in Abuja and Lagos, which made the whole visa process way easier for Nigerians before coming to Lithuania. We're also continuously working on identifying the bottlenecks in the migration procedures and working on finding longer-term solutions and pitching those to different government institutions. So this is just to give you a sense of who are those explorers and put faces to the numbers that I just talked about. And to go even a bit more further, I invite you all to watch 2 quick videos where explorers talk themselves about their experience in Lithuania. And the technical support now will stream those videos for us.
So my name is Amarachi Zekwe, and this is my home. That is my home office. This is where I do all the work. I am a software quality assurance specialist, that's ITO, which is why you see that I have so many phones here. This is where I sleep. This is where I vlog. Everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Lisbeth Alia. I call it my happy place because this is where I come to take walks and clear my head every evening. Also, Kaunas has a lot of street arts like this and this or this. Sometimes I want to be with my friends, so I make a little party. The past 1 year has been a life-changing experience for me, both in my career and in my life in general. I have met new people, I have experienced new cultures, and I am just a better me.
So this is Telesoftos. I'm a backend developer here, Java basically. It's fun, interesting, and sometimes a little bit challenging, but challenges are good, you know. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but I'm a little bit rusty because of Corona, so we'll see. It was a nice game. I won. This is one of the things I like to do. Recycle, that's cardio for me. One of the things I like about Kaunas is the fact that it's not crowded. It's a very calm city, and it's totally different from Lagos. You know, Lagos is really crowded. I can think and can meditate, and you have fresh air, and it's so cool.
So I hope you enjoyed these short videos of two of our explorers who are in Lithuania. There's also a quote on my slide from one of the companies talking about their experience with the program, and that how it has changed their internal culture and what it has created for them. So this brings me to my next point, which is some of the lessons learned. So this project has been started from scratch, and we can even say like it was a Terra Incognita. And cartographers in the Middle Ages, they would mark these lands as dragons there. And I think that actually describes the relationship between Nigeria and Lithuania, because there was a lot of skepticism on both sides. From Lithuanian side, we had a lot of questions why Nigerian developers, other developers, but also in Nigeria, we had a lot of questions around whether this project is a scam or not. So we had to deal with this mistrust and skepticism on both sides. And this meant that we had to invest a lot of our time into working with stakeholders even before the actual project starts. So we actually started thinking about the project and engaging different stakeholders already in 2017, and then worked through 2018 to kick off the project in 2019. We also invested in analyzing what could be beneficial for both sides, and this is also an important part when project is being started from this from scratch, from very limited engagement before. We had to find a niche approach, and it seemed like it worked for both sides, and I think we will hear more about our successes and from different perspectives today. So this brings me to my next point. Sorry, I have to go back. What are the necessary enablers for successful talent mobility? And this is a perspective from sort of Lithuanian side, and my colleague Adeza will talk more about Nigeria. So first of all, there's the crucial support from government institutions and wider stakeholders to implement this project. We would not have been able to implement it, especially the migration procedures and working with a higher political context, without a strong support from our MFA, from the Ministry of Economy, and different other institutions. So whoever is thinking to start similar project in similar conditions like ours really need to invest their time in working with the government institutions. The second very important lesson learned is understanding and adjusting to the needs of private sector. And I cannot stress this enough, that when we speak about talent mobility projects, the interest of the companies, and that could be true for many companies, not only in Lithuania, but across Europe, is to retain the talent, because on European Union level, there is a huge demand, especially for ICT talents. So we're thinking about circular mobility, so meaning that talents coming back to Nigeria, in our case, there have to be other incentives for private sector that encourage them to participate in circular types of mobilities. And we're going to test this out with our second track that we are currently starting, and that my colleague will briefly talk about. And third important point that I would like to raise as a necessary enabler for this successful talent mobility is the necessity to provide continuous support not only for talents while they are in Lithuania, but also for the companies that are employing or giving placements for these talents. Because the structures are not necessarily in place to provide this continuous support, and because, like I mentioned, we started from such a called Terra Incognita, and with a lot of mistrust, we had to invest extra effort in this continuous support, both for the companies and for the talents. And talking about the companies, my last point here is that we mostly focused on small and medium-sized enterprises that are employing talents for the first time. And this also meant a huge effort on the part of the companies to transform, which resulted in benefits for the companies, but that's why they also required a support from someone who can serve as a cultural broker between two different cultures, two different working cultures. Again, just a photo for all of you to see how our 15 explorers look like and some of the company's representatives. And now I would like to give a word to my colleague Adeze, who will talk about key success indicators and lessons learned from Nigerian perspective.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. Really excited to be implementing partners on this project from Nigerian side. So we've had some key success indicators. First is trust. With the explorers working in the companies for 1 year, it's built trust and shared understanding. So the explorers are trusted to represent the values of the company they work in and increase the productivity of the organization. So proof of this is that they were hired, like Eugenia said. Some of them were hired permanently. After a while, we hope that this trust grows to translate into business between both countries. After all, Mark Zuckerberg's and Facebook operation in Nigeria was sort of influenced by Nigerian employees that work at Facebook. We're very proud of that. So the project has enhanced trust between both countries. Second success indicator is the changing the narrative, right? The negative perception we have in the media is reduced about Nigeria when you see good examples like the explorers that are hired in these companies. Also, the issue of illegal migration that we see in Nigeria and most developing countries that portray a negative image of job theft or enhanced insecurity in host companies is also being reduced because the project is designed to support legal migration that is mutually beneficial for both countries. So Lithuanian companies actually demand the foreign talent. The selection process is tight and well designed to select the best participants that will create value, boosting the productivity in Lithuania, enhancing the image in Nigeria, and as well as setting the stage for cross-border opportunities between both countries. So there's no case of job theft or insecurity threats, and there will be no such cases, at least in Lithuania on this project. The third is the potential for socioeconomic impact. There's a huge potential for foreign capital revenue for Nigeria. Diaspora remittances in 2018 was much higher than in oil. So human resource remains our biggest source or our biggest resource, and so need to invest in that. So there's a huge potential for foreign capital. There's huge potential for brain circulation. So rather than think brain drain, there's opportunity to circulate talent, as explorers have signed up to give back to support the ecosystem in Nigeria, providing training and providing mentoring through the alumni community. And lastly is the population control. We have projections that Nigeria's population is going to quadruple in the next decade. So there's need to improve human capital development, not just for the growth of the individuals, but to boost productivity of our knowledge economy. So there's huge potential for social economic impact with this type of program. We've seen the success, and we are giving in everything that we've got to ensure that the program is successful. In terms of lessons learned, we've learned three main things. First is the need to create the enabling environment. Brain flight is a natural mindset in Nigeria, but when there's a conducive environment for people to for better living standards and better earning power, people want to actually stay back. So the project is not only about mobility, it's about creating the enabling environment for innovation and economic growth to thrive. There's need to foster micro and macroeconomic policies that create the enabling environment for talent attraction and retention. And also the need to move beyond talk. So even in the project, we had institutional knowledge sharing. We're talking about lessons that we can learn from Lithuania to apply in Nigeria's context and vice versa. And now we've taken it further to include more action steps that we need to take, policy reforms that we might need to adopt to boost our growing innovation ecosystem. The second big lesson is a pipeline of quality talent. Nigeria is growing with talent, but they're like rough diamonds with potential, but they have to be polished, right? So there's need for us to prepare them, provide advanced learning for them to be able to be competitive globally. There's need for curriculums to focus on relevant technical skills, as well as emphasize soft and leadership skills so that they can meet global market demands. The last is they need to balance the equation. So while we understand that there are some talents that will be good for talent exports, right? Those that can be hired to work full-time abroad, benefiting both economies. We also need to balance program design and be deliberate with program design so that it can support those that can work remotely from Nigeria, so those working from Nigeria for the rest of the world, and traineeship type programs that people can actually go and work for a bit, like an internship, or come back home and share that knowledge to boost our own economy and industries back home. And this is a thinking that we've applied for the second cohort of the Digital Explorers program. We've called it the female track. The second cohort is an all-female cohort that will select up to 15 Nigerian female data analysts / scientists to work for an internship in Lithuania for up to 6 months, after which they'll be assisted to access employment opportunities in Nigeria. So we redesigned the program to test out a different model, which is the internship, where they will gain global knowledge and return to work in their home country. So the program is designed to and is rigged to achieve this outcome. The training is designed to provide market relevant skills for both Lithuania's market and Nigeria's market. And we're partnering with different talent development communities and companies to select the best participants and recruit them on their return. We're really excited, and we're hopeful to see how this outcome will play out. Thank you.
Thank you, Adeza, for sharing lessons learned from Nigerian perspective. With this, we will move to a panel discussion, which will be moderated by Dr. Eglė Grzeskowiak-Verseckaitė. And in the panel, we have Dalia Kreivienė, Director of External Economic Relations Department, Lithuanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Hello, Dalia. We also have Ralph Genetzke, Director and Head of the Brussels office of ICMPD. Then together with us is Mr. Francesco Fusaro, a policy officer at DG Home, Unit for Legal Pathways and Integration. And we also have Mindaugas Ubartas, who is a director of Infobalt, which is a Lithuanian ICT association. And lastly, but not leastly, we have Kola Aina, the founder of Ventures Platform Foundation, serial investor and supporter of Nigerian talents and entrepreneurs. Welcome all, and I give the floor now to our moderator, Dr. Eglė.
Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be a part of this event. I have been very impressed with the project and what I have learned about it from the colleagues who did it. And I am very curious to see what the different stakeholder representatives will have to say. So I will try to ask each question in a bit of a contextualized manner. So, it will contain a few sentences, so don't jump in answering too fast, right? So I will tell you when I'm addressing whom to speak. I would really appreciate it, we all would really appreciate it, if you could try to fit your answer to the first round of the questions into approximately 5 minutes, because we want to make sure that everyone has the chance to speak, that the perspectives get to be balanced. And also, of course, we want to make space for the questions from the audience. We very strongly encourage the audience members to write questions. Please do. We are very interested to see what is important to you, what aspects you want to have highlighted. So please try to participate as actively as you can. And we will look at the questions and address them in the third round of the discussion. We cannot promise that all will be addressed if there's very many of them, but we will do our best to at least summarize several questions and ask them. But we will start with the first round of questions. And so I will first ask a question of the representative of the Lithuanian Foreign Affairs Ministry. Then we will move on to the representative of the ICMPD. Then we'll talk to the representative of the European Commission, then to the representative of Infobalt, and last but not least, of course, the representative of the Ventures platform. I will ask you all, those who are not speaking, to always keep your microphone muted. And when you do speak, make sure you are unmuted before you start speaking. So I hope the rules are clear and everybody is ready. So the first question will be to Ms. Dalia Kreivienė. It's a very important stakeholder, right? The Lithuanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's especially interesting because Lithuania is a very unconventional EU member state to be implemented such a pilot legal migration project, because most of the other implementing countries are long established and recognized development cooperation actors like Spain, France, Belgium, but Lithuania is something new. Also, Lithuania's choice to work with a very unexpected partner in Nigeria is also something new. So I will ask Ms. Dalia, as a representative of the Lithuanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, can you please elaborate on the motivations? What drives such an unexpected project from Lithuania's perspective? What is the meaning of this project for Lithuania? Why it is important? What it does for Lithuania? And how do you see this contributing to the EU-Africa relations, especially taking into account this ambition of the current Commission to kind of reset this relationship? So, Ms. Dalia, please go ahead.
Thank you, Eglė, for such a good question and well-described one. So first of all, hello to everyone, especially Digit Explorers team, all partners, participants of the panel, and everyone connected to this panel. Answering to the question, I will try probably to touch upon two angles. First of all, the benefits for Lithuania, and then from a broader perspective, the benefit for EU-Africa agenda. So talking about Lithuania, probably everyone will agree with me that African countries are not our strategic partners in terms of political, economic relations, and this is really due to very obvious reasons. First of all, historical, geographical, cultural, political aspects, and so on. Yet, it does not mean that we cannot find some particular niches to work together and to fulfill our bilateral agendas. And the project like Digit Explorers, despite the fact that it is of a pilot nature, gives us an opportunity to explore building relationships in a new way with distant, non-traditional and little-known partners. I will not call it unexpected partners. I like this non-traditional, distant, and still very little-known ones. And this project really opens us new innovative ways to find new partners and strengthen our diplomatic and external economic relations with them. So talking about the aspects of the Digital Explorers project that we value the most. First of all, I would say that it definitely contributes to the bilateral economic agenda. It also connects to ICT markets and creates legal migration pathway linking those two ICT markets, and consequently stimulates interest of both countries' private sector to develop business together. Third aspect, I would mention that it enhances the business development in booming African markets. In the next decade, we all know that 85% of global growth will take place outside the European Union, and Africa is the continent with the highest growth potential. Therefore, For us, it is important, and we should pave the way in helping our business to establish their footprint in this continent and use every possible way to do this. And the Digital Explorers project is really very, very good, let's say, platform and good opportunity. The fourth aspect I would mention that it creates long-term connections. Of course, the results are yet to be seen in the future, but what Digital Explorers achieves already now is that it is reshaping the narrative around engagement with African countries, from aid recipients to business partners, and amplifies experience of Lithuanian companies and Nigerian talents. And of course, last but not least, it promotes socio-economic activities that it was mentioned by one of the participants of the panel. Now shifting to this a bit different angle, what benefits from the priority areas point of view and experience sharing. So today we are all talking about digital transformation, and digital transformation is making an essential part of every policy areas, be it industrial policy, trade policy, energy policy, or whatever policy. And this is also one of the major policy areas of interest in our Lithuanian internal agenda as well. So, and it is also a key priority within the new EU-Africa strategy. Therefore, the cooperation with Nigeria through Digital Explorers project aligns with our priorities. And the project not only focuses on matching Nigerian talents with the company's demands for skilled professionals, but also extends its activities to create institutional knowledge exchange. What we see that Digital Explorers program facilitates institutional learning and knowledge exchange between Nigerian and Lithuanian institutions. And we have here quite concrete and good example to share. This is the cooperation between stakeholders of Lithuanian and Nigerian fintech sectors. So we aim to contribute to Nigerian fintech policies by identifying lessons learned of Lithuanian fintech ecosystem that could be applicable to Nigerian context. So huge potential for cooperation in this respect. And one more aspect to mention is that the project also contributes to strengthening Lithuania's image, not only as an attractive destination for business and foreign talents, but also as an innovative country proposing interesting solutions and initiatives. And what we see today, we see that the Digital Explorers project is becoming noticed by some other international organizations. And here I would like to mention that the project has also been recognized by International Trade Center, which has selected Digital Explorers as one of 5 finalists for its World Trade Promotion Organization's Awards, Excellence in Export Initiatives. And ceremony will take place next week, and we hope that the project will be a winner of this award. So let's cross our fingers. And finally, very quickly and briefly, looking from the broader EU level perspective, we also see some benefits in working and helping to elaborate to develop this project. So regarding the contribution on reshaping EU-Africa relations, I would mention 2 major potential benefits of piloting Digital Explorers and will highlight those two aspects. So firstly, that European Commission's attempts to reset the EU-Africa relationships open new opportunities for Baltic countries to contribute to the EU's new and comprehensive strategy for Africa. And for the European Union, this is an opportunity also to make such strategy indeed comprehensive by including voices of countries that we all see historically has been much less engaged with the continent compared to other member states, especially Southern European member states. and that project can also bring new perspectives and experiences. For example, from the transitional point in experience of view, our country has came through quite a successful, let's say, way of our economic transition, and we do really are in a position to share this experience, and we still have let's say in the labor market, people still working in the labor market who have led this transitional experience of our country. Second aspect to be mentioned is that Digital Explorers is an example how new development cooperation actors can practically establish mutually beneficial partnerships with a non-traditional, little-known and distant partners. And comparing with other pilot projects, it is also, I think, worth mentioning that, and it was already mentioned by Eugenia, that Digital Explorers was created from the scratch. It is a project that came from bottom-up approach. The initiative was raised by the founders of the program, which I think means that it has a huge potential to become a permanent and long-lasting initiative. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other Lithuanian institutions noticed the importance of the program, and we immediately offered our full support for this project. So, to summing up my short intervention, I would like to finally say that the Digital Explorers program clearly showed that mobility projects in previously untested set of conditions between so-called unexpected, but still I would like to call them distant and little-known partner countries, creates great value for partners. And we are really happy and proud to see the project team's high level of commitment, strong problem-solving skills, and will continue to support them actively in the future if the project is decided to continue. So thank you very much, and we'll be happy to answer other questions if there are some. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for this rich and very positive contribution. There will be other questions in the second round. Now I would like to direct the next question to Mr. Ralph Genetzke, the representative of the ICMPD. This organization is uniquely positioned, I would say, at the same time to have a bird's eye view of such projects and know in great detail what is happening with these particular ones. So I would really appreciate it if you could help us and tell us, how do you evaluate this Digital Explorers program? What is unique about this project? What makes it a true pilot project, something qualitatively new? And could you please elaborate on what elements you see as most successful? What are the lessons learned? What would you highlight for other countries that would engage in similar projects? We are especially interested in hearing what kind of insights this has brought or can bring about the changes that are needed at the systemic level, about innovative mobility models, not just one-time solutions, but more systemic change. So if you could share your insights about that, it would be greatly appreciated. Mr. Ralph Genetzke, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Moderator. Thank you very much to Digital Explorers and the whole consortium for the invitation. We are happy to see all the other panelists, and also well, great that there is quite a number of people actually listening and watching us for a topic which is hugely important and which has, I think, for the future is one of the crucial issues we have to deal with. Hence, we are talking about pilot projects. Now, indeed, ICMPD, International Center for Migration Policy Development, we are sort of in a special position because, just in one word, we are running basically the program which is called the Mobility Partnership Facility on behalf of the European Commission, more specifically DG Home, and you will hear right after me, I think, the colleague Francesco Fusaro, representing DG Home and the European Commission. So we receive funding from there for this program in order to work then on a number of things, including the pilot projects on legal migration, which allows us to have the means, financial means, but also staff and the team in place to accompany the whole process from the conceptualization up to the implementation for these pilot projects. And I think that is already, in terms of setup of the program, is already something we should keep in mind, because it offers actually flexibility for support in order to make such a pilot project happen. And I think also to support, which I do really like this, how you describe it, the unexpected partnership, the unexpected partners. Because what makes it special? Well, the first answer is you were the first ones. I mean, who would have thought that the first pilot project on legal migration, which was labeled in that way, also by the European Commission, would have been the pilot between Lithuania and Nigeria? I mean, I think most of those dealing with these issues, I mean, we would have thought about other partnerships, which by the preceding speaker, representatives of the ministry evoked as well. But no, an unexpected partner for many reasons. Probably also the reasons and the way the cooperation then developed, changed a little bit over time. But I think that is already one point which has to be kept in mind, that when we speak about pilot project, when we speak about legal migration, there are different objectives often behind the intention to cooperate. And we see that throughout many projects. And it can be simply a labor market concern, but more often there is a migration objective, there's a foreign policy dimension, there's a development cooperation dimension. And that explains already why in many of the pilot projects, if not all, we actually need many stakeholders. Because that is also something which I think was rightly described, which is the case, and which we see throughout all the pilot projects we follow. We need many stakeholders. We need the different stakeholders, and that's not an excuse for creating sort of complicated projects. It's no, because the nature of the topic is such that we need the different roles from everybody represented in these projects. So from this very first moment, I think what I can only do actually also in sort of lessons learned you were asking, and also looking a little bit comparing to the others which we have seen, I can only emphasize certain things which also were presented right before by the colleagues already. And what I always say when it comes to pilot projects on legal migration, basically I think we have to work on everything which sounds terribly obvious. I mean, we take it for granted, obviously, that we have to work with the private sector. But to work with the private sector, when you come from a migration world, I'm representing a migration organization, and we also work with the private sector, and you have to learn a little bit the two sides, how to work together. It was emphasized that you have to build trust. It's again something which, I mean, many people would question, why do you have to invest time and energy actually in trust building? So this is one dimension. Absolutely obvious, but it's so necessary that this is done in a proper way. When we also speak about the private sector, I mean, we have to realize the differences. Small and medium-sized enterprises are a totally different world, and I think this is here well represented as well, and is sort of the layer of the economy in many countries in Europe where there are big needs, but where it needs very specific approaches, the way of talking to small and medium-sized enterprises to allow them to actually benefit from mobility and international mobility, because again, also on their side, it needs an investment, if you wish, not only financial, but in terms of, as I call it, time and energy. The other point, lessons learned, matching. I mean, when it comes to legal migration, in any document which describes legal migration mobility, very quickly we come to the point which says a few sentences about matching profiles. And for all those who have done it, matching profiles, it's one, if not the most complicated issue you can actually imagine. So also there, that's why we need pilot projects actually to work on these things in a country context, which are then also very specific. And also, I would say a beautiful example, and that links also to the preceding speaker. What an example in your case that the authorities decided to facilitate the visa application process in establishing a structure, a center in Nigeria. And here again, we see how actually which in the beginning, I guess, was identified at some point as an administrative, let's say, bottleneck or something which needed a solution, actually was addressed through a very concrete response by the authorities. And again, the point was made at the very beginning. It needs the cooperation, private sector facilitation, but with a strong role of the authorities in order to make actually these projects happen. So just again, and time is not very long, but I call all these points, when I list them, I always think, well, this is so obvious. Of course, we have to work on all these things when it comes to legal migration, but it has to be done. Otherwise, there would not be any mobility, as small or as big actually the number of people would be. And I think also one other lessons learned with the colleagues, and you know very well the colleagues from what we call the mobility partnership team, it's what we come more and more to the conclusion that we have, when we say, what do we have to pilot actually? And I think it is too easy and too quickly that we say, okay, we have to pilot the mobility. Of course, the mobility is important. We want that people move and are hired and so on. But it was rightly said at the beginning, it won't happen if we don't have the enabling environments in place. Enabling environment, or we can also call it ecosystems, it won't happen. Now it is certainly much more attractive to say, oh, we have moved the 500 people and or even more people moved. But as I said, it goes hand in hand. I mean, we have to look at the regulatory environment from pilot projects, as small as they are. We can learn, and we do learn many, you can call them pain points, through which we can also address, for instance, the regulatory environment, which often is too rigid for labor markets if we want to work with dynamic labor markets. So all these points for us show us again that piloting is a notion which goes beyond now counting how many people moved from A to B or back and reintegrate. It's all important, but it goes together with the enabling environment, with ecosystems which actually allow for that. I think with that, I leave it here. Otherwise, yeah, I'm going beyond my time limit. Thank you very much, already.
Thank you. It is unsurprising that you have so much to say, because you know so much about the project and about the environment and about the issues that have been faced. And now I would like to direct the question to the representative of the European Commission, because we have heard about the program itself. We have heard about this, a bit of a broader perspective. And now let's try to look even broader, right? What makes a pilot project a pilot in the eyes of the European Commission? What are the right qualities for a project to be a pilot? And what would you consider then to be a successful pilot project? Because we all understand it is quite possible for a pilot to not necessarily show results right away. It might require additional injections. Very few such projects take place in a self-sustainable mode. If you could please share at which point, based on what criteria, would you consider a pilot project to be a success? So, Mr. Francesco Fusaro, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here, for inviting the Commission, and all to the other panelists that are there, and so also to the people that are following this panel. Well, the colleagues before me have already hinted to some key points on this, and I'm very glad that I think if I had a list of elements I should cross out for being a successful pilot, they seem all to be there. And one of it, I mean, I will definitely refer to what is the concept of a pilot. So when we say we want mobility, and I think we have mobility, but mobility is not all of it. And so Ralph has said this before me, because beyond the mobility, there are the relations that are created between countries. And I find this is very useful in what a pilot can bring. And the other element is not only institutional relations, but as also Ralph pointed at, is it the relation between all the stakeholders, all the parties that are there. And so we're talking about private companies as well. I think it's because of the number of stakeholders, because what is at stake, it's something very complex. But I think these are the key elements that are there, and then they were all there. What is also important for me, and I appreciate there was also the intervention from Adese, is to see also what is the impact in Nigeria. So, and I'm happy, and for Nigerians. So she referred to the foreign investment. She refers to the perceptions of Nigerians, and I think that these are elements that all belong to what a pilot project can be successful for. Now, I will say also then that it's very key for me that a pilot project works and that is useful. This is sometimes can be simple, but when we say we need to know what are the shortages in member states and we need to know what are the skills elsewhere, I think this is very intuitive, but it's something that we have to do. And only in this way we can promote pilot and we can scale up pilot. It cannot be something that is artificially created. It is something where there is a need, and then where there is the willingness to cooperate. So I will stop here and now, and I'm glad that some of the other points have already been addressed by the speakers before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's good to know that the many different stakeholders do see eye to eye on certain aspects of the project. And you mentioned how important the cooperation with private companies are, and that's why I would like to now move to the participant in the panel, who is the representative of Infobalt, so of the private sector in our case. As Eurostat has indicated, during 2018 in a survey, 9% of EU enterprises indicated that they have tried to recruit ICT specialists, and more than half of them, 58%, said that they had problems filling those vacancies requiring relevant ICT skills. So there's clearly a need for those kind of specialists, and Lithuanian businesses also face such issues. Also, just recently, there was the new Digital Competitiveness Index published by the IMD World Competitiveness Center. In it, Lithuania holds 29th place globally. It seems pretty good, right? A part of that index is based on human capital, and specifically there, the data shows that Lithuania's weak spot is attraction of foreign talents, and that problem is to a large extent related to the barriers that I encountered in the process of migration and in employment of foreigners. So I would really appreciate it if Mr. Mindaugas Ubartas could share what are those barriers for employment of foreigners in Lithuania from the perspective of businesses. What, in your opinion, should Lithuanian government and European Union do to stay competitive, to be able to attract and retain key talent? What are those bottlenecks from the business perspective that could be addressed in the future through similar pilot projects so that they would be attractive to the IT sector? So Mr. Mindaugas Ubartas, the floor is yours.
So thank you for these questions, and let's start from the beginning. Yeah, you mentioned that ICT specialists is a scarce resource in all the EU, and I just can name it. Yes, you are right. Our association has been doing the researches also a couple of years ago, and we found out that our companies in Lithuania could employ additionally 13,000 of ICT specialists, which are not on the market right now, and which are not in educational system, because in educational system in Lithuania, we are getting 4,000 students who is entering the studies of ICT, and only after 4 years, only 2,000 is finishing. Others are starting to drop off, and that's a problem, because the demand is growing and the supply is not there. So when we are talking about how to solve this issue, is that the migration is one of them, and or outsourcing to further countries. So when we are talking about migration, we have quite a good things done, and IT specialists, ICT specialists, they are on easier migration program. But at the same time, I'm loudly shouting that, as an example, Bill Gates would not be able to work in Lithuania because he has no university degree, that's one. Then he has no 5 years programming experience, which could be counted as a qualification. And, you know, to bring the managing specialists in IT, it's more complicated than to bring the specialist or the expert. So we have blue card in the European Union, we have many regulations, but I would say in Lithuania, having this deficit, we should look from unconventional or not traditional methods. We should say that if companies are ready to employ IT specialists, ICT specialists, we should take away all the migration barriers. The company takes care of this specialist in Lithuania and promises to pay 1.5, 2 times higher salaries than average in the country. So there should not be involved anyone else. That should be 3 minutes decision, visa given, and person from anywhere in the world coming to Lithuania and creating the huge and good products working working globally. So we should not look to everyone that they are the same. We should hunt for the talents in Lithuania, and we should hunt for the talents for all European Union. We are being, as a European Union, we are getting older and older as people. So we need to get fresh and new specialists from all over the world. That would be my saying. And to do that, we need to look a little bit easier to the regulations, because now we are looking that, we are trying to catch 1% of criminals who is illegally migrating, but we are putting the burden on 99% of the normal citizens who are not having anything bad in mind by coming and working, and especially on high qualification. So we should look from Lithuania perspective and from EU perspective that we need to attract talents. And in order to attract talents, we need to lose our nets of catching the bad comers. We need to attract more good comers. Like this pilot project, I really liked it. The companies who employ the specialists, they are happy. So I would like to see more of that, not only from Nigeria. I would like to see it from Chad, from, I don't know, Somalia, from Afghanistan, Tajikistan, you name it. There are 200 countries. I would like to see Bill Gates also working in Lithuania, that he would rule his small company called Microsoft from Lithuania, sitting in Constitucijos prospectus, not somewhere than in USA and Seattle. So basically that's it. Let's open the doors for the talent to come to Lithuania. There is 13,000 empty seats. So this 15 members who came is a good start. So now, if I calculate correctly, it's 12,985 still to come. And you are obliged to bring them, Eugenia. That's it.
Thank you very much for this lively contribution. We will definitely revisit the aspect of migration regulation and the approach to migration, because you do bring up very relevant subtopics, let's say. But I would like to now give the floor to the last but not least member of the panel, the representative of Ventures platform, because we are mostly speaking here from the perspective of Europe, of Lithuania, of businesses and the governmental authorities or supranational authorities here. But what about the perspective of the partners in Nigeria? Nigeria is one of the most populous countries in the world, I think like number 7 in the whole world. So it has a lot of talent to contribute to the global economy. It also, on the other hand, belongs to the category of so-called lower middle income countries. And those types of countries are the ones that experience the most acute brain drain. They lose the most college graduates compared to all the other types of countries. So there are certainly two sides to migration from Nigeria. So I would like to ask Mr. Kola Aina, how would you evaluate such projects like the Digital Explorers program from the perspective of Nigeria, and what should the EU member states and the European Commission do when providing the financial backing when setting up such projects? What should they take into account to ensure that such a project is a win-win for both sides? So Mr. Kola Aina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It's a pleasure to be here with all the other colleagues, my colleagues from Africa and our sponsors of this project. I've listened very attentively to the contributions, and I think I agree with most of the perspectives that have been shared. But I like to start with one of my favorite quotes. Talent, they say, is equally distributed, but opportunity isn't. And that is, what we exist to do at Ventures Platform, essentially trying to figure out how we create more opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship using the resource that we have, which is really talented youth. And in a nutshell, in my view, this project has been a fantastic success in the sense that there were some initial skepticisms, as has already been indicated. Migration has been associated with all sorts of, scams and funny schemes. And so, very early on, we had to contend with ensuring that we communicated very clearly, but also leveraging the reputations of all the partners, both locally and internationally, to bolster people's confidence in the project. Now, once we overcame that, you then started to, we ourselves started to be worried about the potential of contributing to the notion of brain drain from Nigeria. But you see, I think when you realize that Nigeria and probably most of Africa's biggest assets is actually human capital. For years, for decades, we have wrongly assumed that our greatest assets will be minerals or what have you. But we've come to the realization that our greatest asset is the people that we have. And so the real question is, how do we create more opportunity for this asset to sharpen their skills and contribute to the global economy? Because when you have more of your people contributing to the global economy in that way, there are several net benefits. For example, remittances have been a significant contributor to economic growth in Nigeria. In 2018, there was about 25 billion in remittances that came back, mostly from knowledge workers working around the world. And so, yes, there is the notion of brain drain, but I think if we need to start moving from thinking about it as brain drain to a concept that is often called brain circulation. How do you have a situation where people migrate, gain experience and exposure, and either decide to invest themselves or return several years later with enhanced experiences to contribute to the ecosystem locally. There is also the fact that I'm really pleased that this project has contributed to deepening perspectives on the Lithuanian side about Nigeria and Nigerians, because there's no better way to improve your appreciation of diversity than actually working with people that are fundamentally different from you. And I'm glad to see that the cohort of this pilot have proven the talent that does exist in the Nigerian technology ecosystem. And I think we can only hope for more. So congratulations to all the partners. We're really glad to have been a part of this, and we look forward to furthering the cause of legal and positive migration. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this tight and rich contribution. I'm very glad you brought up this notion of brain circulation, because indeed, from the scientific perspective, it is the best type of migration, circular migration. Unfortunately, very often there are barriers to it precisely because of strict migration regulations, where people are afraid to leave a good place which they found, just because they're afraid they might not be able to return to it. And so the rethinking of migration regulation is indeed something that we have heard from many of the panelists here, and that's why I would like now in this second round to ask some questions more specifically related to that. I would also like to remind our audience who are watching this panel discussion to please ask questions, write them in the chat. We would be very happy to address them. So please go ahead and ask your questions. And in the meanwhile, I will ask the question of Mr. Francesco Fusaro, the representative of the European Commission. Now, taking this, what has been said into account, and also taking into account that, for example, the World Intellectual Property Organization has determined that foreigners are statistically significantly overrepresented among inventors and innovators in pretty much most of the developed economies in the world, especially among the top 5% most highly cited patents. So, immigrant, high-skilled talents, they contribute disproportionately a lot to the development of the economies. And it's no wonder then that there is intense global competition for high-skilled workers, and it is usually won by places like the US or Singapore. Some European countries do get also quite a few, but the numbers there are not in favor of the European Union. Also, a study by Korn Ferry on the future of work, it claims that by 2030, there will be a global talent shortage of more than 85 million people, which could result in the loss of potential 8.5 trillion global potential revenue. And the large part of this is because of closed borders and the negative attitude towards labor mobility, even though it's so surprising, because labor migrants, they have the best potential to integrate and the best potential to contribute, yet there is a lot of confusion in the public opinion and consequently in the policies of many of the countries which could benefit from this migration. So I would like to ask then, what is the vision of the European Commission when it comes to talent mobility between Europe and Africa? And what is the place of talent partnerships and pilot projects related to that in the new pact on migration? Thematically, it would seem that it would be at the center of it all, but how exactly would such projects like Digital Explorers Program, its peers and possible follow-ups, how would they fit into this new framework? So Mr. Francesco Fusaro, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I'm happy you asked me an easy question. So thank you. So I heard what you said, and I thank you also for the statistic. What you said, it's very true. So on 23rd of September, the Commission came up with the Pact for Asylum and Migration, and now an important element of this, it's about legal migration. So it's also about fighting irregular migration, but it's also about legal migration, and it's also and it recognizes exactly what you said. So how we can have talents. And so in the current moment, and this is something that is published, we have one element that is exactly built on what are the pilots. And so it's the idea of having a talent partnerships. So this talent partnership will build on the pilots, but will represent a more structured element of cooperation between countries. Now, the way in which how this is going to evolve, I can't predict right now. But what I can say is something that it is quite central in the document, but it is also an element of the strategy towards third countries. But it's not the only one. So relations with third countries are not exclusively limited to what is recruiting talents. It also concerns other elements, including the possibility to help in the capacity building of the institution of countries. So before you mentioned also about brain drain. Well, actually, brain drain is exactly what is not in and should never be in a pilot project, because we care, of course, about what it happens here in Europe, but we also want a mutual benefit from this kind of partnership. So to reply to your question, the Commission has identified this as key element for the future. How it will exactly develop, I can't say right now, but it's absolutely a key element. And another key element is not only the talent partnership, but also, if you have a look at the document, about the possibility of setting up a talent pool. So to create, and this will also help in creating and helping member states and their companies, EU member states and companies, to find the people that could help filling the gap within their own countries for certain kind of occupation.
Thank you very much. And then, as it should be noted, migration is not necessarily just up to the EU, it's to a very large extent up to the member states. And we have to keep in mind that there's over 272 million people living in a foreign country right now, and there are multiples of that who would be willing to relocate if they were given that opportunity. And companies are trying to source skilled workers from all over the globe. But when it comes to bringing them into a country and retaining them, that is fundamentally dependent on a country's policies. And so I would like to ask Ms. Dalia Kreivienė, the representative of the Lithuanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, what is the Lithuanian vision? Does Lithuania have a vision for attracting and retaining foreign talent from countries like Nigeria? So Ms. Dalia Kreivienė, please go ahead.
Thanks a lot for this question. So the vision, probably a bit more ambitious word in answering to your question raised, but I would probably say by taking the example, what do we have today in Lithuania and in our neighboring country, and how, and I mean Belarus, and how we handle this situation and try to find those solutions, how to help professionals to come into our country. So whenever there is a will, whenever there is a kind of, you said, vision or strategy of the government and resources, you can do everything. So if the country needs professionals from be it Nigeria or any other country, then of course it is to set up appropriate regulatory environment, appropriate ecosystem, that those people, when they are coming to your country, could establish themselves quite quickly. And first of all, that they could get visa to enter your country. So for the visa, we have some, let's say, already solutions. We have startup visa for young professionals, IT skilled professionals, so they can come. But then the question is whether afterwards they can settle their lives in Lithuania and to solve all those we call it logistical problems and logistical issues to live for a longer period. So when now facing the situation what's going on in Belarus, and when we see that a lot of professionals, and especially IT sector, they are knocking the door and they are willing to come to Lithuania, we make steps. The government really, while facing this situation, trying to find solutions, and we managed to change our procedures, how to issue visas more quickly. Now what we see the problem that people coming to Lithuania, they have some difficulties to open the account in the banks. So the government proposed the amendment to the law and to let those companies to open their accounts not only in traditional banks but also in those so-called electronic money institutions. So there are steps that have been already taken to help people to come, and those steps will be, those solutions will be also useful, I think, for any other country and for Nigerian people, and maybe for this Digital Explorers program, for the continuation of this program, people might use this established new regulatory solutions and environment. But yeah, to call and to answer you whether we do really have a concrete vision for the migration policy. Of course, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is, first of all, is not in charge of the migration policy, but we can propose solutions. We can propose one or another, let's say, step to be taken to our other institutions that are in charge of this policy. We still have a lot of work to do. If summing up my answer, there are some good initiatives, but of course we still have much to do to make this policy relevant and responding to the needs of those professionals that want to come to our country. That would be probably my short answer to your question.
Thank you very much. And indeed, the regulatory environment is crucial, and it's also very important to take care of all the other ingredients that go into this kind of mobility and this kind of partnership. And so now we have an interesting question from the audience, and I would like to direct it towards Mr. Mindaugas Ubartas. For such projects to happen in the future, what kind of conditions do you think would be necessary for the private sector to be willing to co-finance them so that there would be a true partnership from the financial side as well? Please go ahead.
Look, in Lithuania with the migration, we have unproportionately big part of unskilled workers and very small part of skilled workers from third countries coming. And the reason for that is then when we are looking to our ICT sector, it's a dominant with small, medium enterprises, and only big shared service centers are the ones who are capable to, let's say, they are big and then they can afford to employ somebody from third country because of all these barriers we have put. For the small and medium enterprise to find out all the entrance and out of this maze of regulations in migration procedures is a nightmare. And if they need only one person, they will be looking in the local market instead of looking globally and sourcing globally. When we are talking about big companies, then they have a procedure in place and resources in place to source people from anywhere in the world. So the private sector in IT sector in Lithuania is in shortage of talents. So they are more than willing to employ them. Not all of them, of course. We have a cultural differences issues. We have also the issues with the social life of newcomers. I have been an expat myself in Estonia, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan. So it's an interesting journey. Let's put it that way. So when the person is coming to the country, he also needs to be, reassured that he will be sound and safe here, and he will have even the society where he can talk and discuss. So the private sector is more than willing to invest into the talents. We have academies, we are educating, we are re-educating people just to be able to employ. Definitely, we would like to attract from third countries as well employees and invest money into that as well. But we need, easier procedures, because ICT is a sector where big value or high value production is done, and we are able to open the borders in EU and sell our man hours or products globally. So, but we don't want to work on, putting the efforts in regulation is not the strongest part of ICT sector. What we are doing, we are employing. We also are employing in ICT that people can work globally. Yeah. So basically, we are sourcing talents, but we are not bringing them to the country. We are keeping the distant work and getting their services from outside. There are companies who are bringing giving the employment opportunities for Bangladeshi IT sector, for Taiwan IT sector. So we are working globally, but of course we would like to bring more into Lithuania, because the diversity, that's what creates the innovation. It's very difficult to innovate without a diversity. It's also what we need to say. We need more Lithuanians to go abroad. So such digital explorers, it should be not a one-way street. It should be two-way street. And the best would be 6 lines one direction, 6 lines another direction, because cultural exchange, experience exchange, and gives good potential for innovation for both countries. So it was mentioned that it should be circular brain movement, not brain drainage. So we should be also looking for Lithuanians going to Nigeria, working in their companies and bringing that experience which we have here to the Nigerian companies. So it should be a two-way street. And the private sector is ready, just let's do it.
All right, thank you very much. You bring up very good points. I see there are also some questions from the audience, but it seems like they would be best directed towards Eugenia, who is the representative of the project herself. So I would just like to remind the audience that there's a couple more minutes for you to ask questions if you have questions for the panelists. And in the meanwhile, I will ask Eugenia to comment on the questions that the audience is asking. More specifically, they're asking to specify how satisfied is the Lithuanian IT sector with the talents that they got from Nigeria. And also another question asks, as far as the project is concerned, are there any identified preliminary recommendations so far? So Ms. Eugenia, please go ahead.
Thank you, Eglė, for these questions. I will address the second question first about the recommendations. The project is, while we are finishing the first round of Digital Explorers, we are entering a new phase and starting with a female track where we're going to be testing a slightly different model to the first one. So we do have a lot of lessons learned from the first track, and we can formulate recommendations. They are not there written and presented in the sort of a report way, and we will be doing that next year when we will be finalizing. But definitely, if there is a specific interest in the recommendations, we do have them, and they can be addressed for the private sector interested in, let's say, hiring international talents. There are different recommendations for member states who are interested in doing pilot projects. There are different recommendations for partner countries like Nigeria in our case. So whoever has a specific question, what sort of recommendations you're looking for, you are free to reach out to us and we can have a conversation. We are really happy to share our lessons learned from this unique project. We've learned a lot in this last almost 2 years. Answering a question whether Lithuanian IT sector is satisfied with the talents from Nigeria, I think the numbers speak for themselves, that currently 10 out of 15 Nigerians are being retained either by the same companies or being employed by other companies in Lithuania. So it means they've been valued, they provide the skills that are being sought after on the market. But it's not just sort of a black and white situation. And Mindaugas from Infobalt has been mentioning the lack of the demand for ICT specialists in Lithuania. And we were also citing a lot of migration bottlenecks to attract those talents. But actually also Lithuanian companies, and especially when we talk about small and medium enterprises, are not necessarily fully ready to accept those talents. And this is something that we will be discussing more in depth tomorrow in our panel discussion about where we will have a representative of the company that currently employs 5 of the Nigerians from the program. We will also have one of the explorers sharing his experience of working for 1 year in this company. We will also have HR specialists discussing whether Lithuanian companies are really ready for international talents. So I'm like, since I'm guessing we are kind of wrapping up, I use this moment to invite those of you interested more in the private sector perspective, like micro level, to join us for tomorrow's webinar as well. I think that answers Egle's question. And I can see there are no other questions from the audience at the moment, and we are 1 minute over our time. So I will actually take over and give my thanks to all of you for participating in this panel discussion. It has been very fruitful, I think. We've heard a lot of different perspectives. We've heard commitment as well for supporting the projects. We also heard what we need to do to work further and scale, because we do indeed have ambition to scale. Maybe not to Chad or Somalia, as Mindaugas mentioned. Perhaps Ghana is one of the potential countries of interest, but we can discuss it in another conversation. I will just would like to kind of share my screen just for a little while for you to get the context of the digital explorers. Here we go, I'm sharing my screen. So you have our context here. You can also see all the consortium partners mentioned on the represented on this slide. And I really want to say a huge thank you for all the panelists for finding the time and joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Eglė, for a very good moderation and an energy that you brought into the panel. Thank you, my colleague Adeze from Nigeria. I'm really happy the connection worked and there were no lagging. And last but not least, thank you for all the audience that have joined us, have been asking questions. There will be a recording of this session that will be available online. So if you missed a part of it, you came late, or you had to leave early, there will be a recording available. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone. Great success in all your projects. This is a good start. Let's do much more. Thank you, everyone, for participating, and best of luck. Bye-bye.